everyone. Welcome to Monday's edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, and the man, the master, the parlay master himself, Chris King, is with us. Chris, how'd you have a nice weekend?
It was a good weekend, Jim. I mean, anybody that watched us Friday knew we talked about the games that took place Saturday, and we told you that Cincinnati and Buffalo were going to win, and both those teams ended up prevailing. Though Cincinnati's game was probably a little more controversial than most people would have wanted. They got their first playoff win in more than 3 decades. Hard to believe that, the interesting thing about that was, Cincinnati won their last playoff game that came after their playoff win back in 1990 was a loss to the Los Angeles Raiders. And I don't know if you remember, well, you probably do. That was the game where Bo Jackson injured his hip.
Yep.
And, pretty much derailed his career.
Yeah, that was the one that absolutely ended his career.
Yeah, and then the Raiders went out to Buffalo the next week and got absolutely obliterated, 51-3.
Right.
Of course, I have fond memories of that game because, the Raiders were sucking wind 2 minutes into the game, and you got Bill Walsh going, I can't believe the Raiders are calling a timeout this early in the game. It's the first possession.
It's like, yeah, well, that's kind of how it works sometimes. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes it just happens. Those two teams have they have a bit of a history, not a long history, but they have a history. And, it was kind of interesting to see it. I was quite pleased to see how well, they played. To me, that was the cherry on top of the sundae, was seeing how well Buffalo played in the case of the Bengals in their game. I thought that was an entertaining game. It was a bit disjointed, but it was entertaining. I thought of the games of the weekend, I thought that one, and then of course the Cowboys game was also to me were the two most entertaining.
Well, the Cowboys, they can blame everybody that they want for the reason they lost that game. It boils down to 2 things, and we talked about it in the pre-show. It's the discipline factor. You get penalized 14 times. A bunch of them are stupid penalties that are pre-snap penalties. You get the stupid defensive holding call on 3rd down with less than 2 minutes to go on a play where the guy was nowhere near the ball in the first place.
Right.
And why do you try to run a QB draw knowing there's 14 seconds left? You have no timeouts. And then you want to blame the officials because of the fact that they didn't get the ball down fast enough. The bottom line is the rule states the umpire has to spot the ball before you can snap it. You don't hand the ball to somebody else. If Dak Prescott had any common sense, he could have handed the ball to the umpire right away. They could have gotten spotted. Maybe they get a snap off. I don't know. But bottom line is 14 seconds. He could have slid earlier. He didn't have to keep trying to go forward. He could have ran out of bounds. But, Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys, they have nobody to blame but themselves. Into this one and going into the offseason, and you have to wonder, is Jerry Jones irritated enough where McCarthy might find himself in hot water?
Well, let's realize that it's been 26 years since the Dallas Cowboys have participated in a championship game. Okay?
Right.
That's 2 generations. You consider a generation a 10-year span, right? So 2 generations of Cowboys fans do not know the last time they went to the Super Bowl was with Barry Switzer using a Jimmy Johnson team. Okay, so
where Neil O'Donnell basically gave them the Super Bowl.
Right. So basically, the divorce of Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, purely because of ego, was really the demise of the Cowboys, and frankly, they haven't been the same since. And that game yesterday was, we were talking, as we said in the pre-show, all you needed to know, and you and I were talking about this, is Jimmy G completed 3 passes in the second half, and they still won. That was it. That's all he got was 3 passes in the second half. Dallas had numerous opportunities to win that game.
Yep.
Long before we got to the end. And to sit there and blame it on, poor officiating and all that other stuff is just another, reason why so many people, I know there are a lot of people who like the Dallas Cowboys. There's an equal amount, if not more, people who don't like the Dallas Cowboys. And, that's what you look at. You look at making excuses. I was very pleased. Look, Mike Tomlin is a class act. And last night, when the game was over, they said, well, what about, Ben, what about this, what about that? Let me just start with this. He goes, the Kansas City, for those of you who do not understand football, he says, the Kansas City Chiefs are better than we are. He says, we played as well as we could play, and they beat us. And he goes, and we could play them tomorrow, and they probably beat us again. So he said, maybe not as bad, maybe worse. I don't know. He says, but I know this. They're good. We're not as good. And that's how he goes. So, because you want to talk about anything about the game, start with the fact they're better than us, and I'm more than happy to answer your question. So,
as much as I don't like Bill Belichick, he did pretty much did the same thing after the game Saturday night. But like we said yesterday in the Bucs pregame show with Ray, he must have known something wasn't right, because you have to remember, in that game in Buffalo in December, Mac Jones threw 3 passes, and granted, they looked like Steve Rogan passes with the way that they looked like helium balloons that got sucked up in the wind.
Right.
But he threw the ball 6 times on that opening possession alone.
Right.
And, the momentum obviously changed with the interception by Micah Hyde, who made a great play, tracking that one down in the end zone, stealing away from Nelson Aguilar. But after that, New England looked completely befuddled. They couldn't move the ball on offense. The run game was completely blunted. I mean, Damian Harris, he ran wild on Buffalo in the regular season. We only had 30 yards on 9 carries, and Stevenson had 8 carries for 27 yards. So, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. Do you think Belichick changed his game plan, seeing how Buffalo moved right down the field in the first round and said, oh, boy, we're going to be in a track meet like Kelly and Marino had in the 90s? Or did he just think, well, this is what we have to do because they're going to throw a regular defense out there instead of a nickel and stop the run?
Well, I think again we have to look at Josh McDaniel. I mean, Josh is the guy who calls the offense, and I think what happened there is he probably, to your point, he probably went over and said, "Hey, coach, let's open this up and see if we can do this." And look, you're going to find out early in the game whether Mac Jones is going to be able to beat you or not. And I think that was what they decided to do. Is let's see, because the Patriots are not the kind of team that can get behind and come back. They're just maybe from 7, maybe even from 14, but not the way that the Bills were running at them. To use a hockey line, they ran their first, second, and third lines out there and basically scored every time they went out. So I mean, look at the statistical mashup that was in the way that those were fantasy numbers that the Bills put up on the Patriots. But I do think in Josh McDaniels' case, he probably wanted to say, that can we hang with them if Mac has to throw? And the only way to do it is to see. And I think he realized, because they've been kind of, I don't want to hesitate. I hesitate from calling it babying, or bringing him along, spoon feeding him. But I think they wanted to, work Mac Jones into the NFL rather than throw him in there and say, okay, all you have to do is, beat Buffalo, we'll all be happy.
I think the tough part too was, New England's defense was a top 5 defense,
right,
all season long. And Buffalo went through them like a hot knife through butter. And as you know, that weather was not conducive to much of anything.
Yeah.
But, if you look at the drives, 75 yards, 80 yards, 81 yards, 89 yards. They had the ball 7 times and scored 7 touchdowns. And then, the last drive was just 3 kneel downs. But if you look, they didn't turn it over. They were 6 of 7 on third down. And the only third down they didn't get was because Trubisky kneeled down and run the clock out. New England's defense couldn't get off the field unless special teams was out there to kick an extra point.
Right.
And you talk about Belichick, he's been around for seemingly 85 years of the NFL's history. And now, he's had 2 games where the opposing team hasn't punted. They both come against the Bills in the last month. I told Ray this yesterday. Belichick's 3 worst losses in his career came Saturday night. It came in Week 16 on Monday Night Football last year. It came in the Lawyer-Malloy game back in 2003. The one thing in common, all 3 of those losses came to the Buffalo Bills.
Well,
Buffalo's got a great track record against Buffalo. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But Buffalo's won 4 of the last 5 meetings between these teams now.
Right.
And the one loss was the one in the windstorm where they had a chance to win that one too.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder, what can New England do? Because now the power has shifted dramatically in the AFC East over the last couple of seasons.
Oh, for sure. And I don't think it's shifting back anytime soon. It's all good things, as the old saying goes, must come to an end. And doesn't much matter who you are, whether you're Vince Lombardi or you're, the geniuses of their time, supposedly.
Once you're good man, then you just retire.
Yeah. You do what you do and you get, exit stage right. So anyway, it was a crazy weekend. Everybody had, I'm sure, had in our comments. I'm quite sure that they're going to let us know what they liked and didn't like about it. But we've got a lot of games to get to, so let's get moving. But first, of course, we're going to talk about our buddies at Caesars because they're fun to have with us, and we couldn't be happier to have Caesars Sportsbook, as part of our family. So let's talk a little bit about Caesars. All right. Now here's the deal. All right. When you make your first deposit, and you put your bet in at Caesars Sportsbook, either on the app or online, they're going to match that wager up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first deposit bet using Caesars Sportsbook for the first time, either on the app or online, and they will match that wager up to $1,000. However, before you can get that deal, you must use the promo code Video Winners to get the deal. All right, and that's because they are fans of ours at Winners and Whiners. Now, as we told you last week, okay, here's the cool part. If you're in New York, they have a deal for you, my friends. It's called the Empire State Royal Welcome. You get $300 in bonus cash when you sign up and put in your deposit, and they're going to match that first deposit all the way up to $3,000. But again, you must use our promo code, and that promo code is Winners New. That's right, Winners New. So all of that, whether it's Caesars Sportsbook for Winners and Whiners outside the state of New York or inside the state of New York, they're going to give you money to play, and they're going to have fun because they like us here at Winners and Whiners, and we like them too. So once again, for those of you outside the state of New York, the key is promo code Video Winners to get the deal. And to get the deal in the state of New York, you're going to want to use the code Winners New. Okay? Cool. All right. So, as we said before, the most important thing to remember too beyond this is that you must be 21 years of age to participate. And, of course, Caesars and those of us right here at the good old folks at Winners and Whiners, we want you to know that you should always bet responsibly. All right? Okay. So, Chris, here we go. We're going to go, and we're going to go to the college Harvard. We're going to go to the Big Ten, and we have a good one tonight. And a team that we love to, not necessarily love to bet on, but perhaps more bet against. And the Huskers are on that side of the coin.
Yeah, that's right. Fred Hoiberg's Nebraska Cornhuskers. They're at home tonight in Lincoln as they take on the Indiana Hoosiers. Mike Wood's done a good job with his alma mater. They're 12-4 this year. The bad side is they're 0-4 on the road, but they're facing a Nebraska team that's 6-12 overall. They're 6-6 at home, including that loss to Western Illinois back at the beginning of the season. Indiana's 116th in scoring offense, 74.9 points a game. They're 28th in field goal percentage at 48%. They're 31st in rebounding, pulling down about 40 boards a night. Meanwhile, Nebraska, we've talked about it repeatedly, they are horrible terrible on the defensive end of the floor, Jim. They're 346 in scoring defense, giving up better than 79 points a game. They're 251st in field goal percentage. They give up 9.8 three-pointers a game, which is 353rd in the nation. And opposing teams shoot 36% from beyond the arc. If that wasn't bad enough, Nebraska is third worst in the nation when it comes to giving up rebounds at 43.3 boards a game. Indiana, they ride the inside game with Trace Jackson Davis. It's kind of like Kofi Cockburn, only he's a little bit smaller. But
right.
with Nebraska, it doesn't matter. They have no size. Indiana is first in the nation in effective field goal percentage defense at 41.6%. They are second in two-point defense at 40.3%. They're 27th in three-point defense, 29.1%. Indiana's 5-0 in their last 5 after an ATS loss. They're 4-0-1 in their last 5 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. Nebraska 8-20 in their last 28 against teams with a road winning percentage below 400. A couple more interesting stats that I didn't put on the page so you wouldn't miss them. Indiana 6-1 in their last 7 as a favorite, and 22-6-1 in their last 29 against teams with a losing record. For those of you that weren't with us Friday, Nebraska was on the road at the Mackey Arena against Purdue, and we told you that the Boilermakers would cover as a 20.5-point favorite. I know that seemed like a big number. Final score was Purdue 92, Nebraska 65. The Cornhuskers just have not looked good this season. You have to think Indiana can get their first road win of the year here as they take care of a Nebraska team that seemingly has no identity, and they're terrible on the defensive end of the floor.
Yeah, and the Hoosiers, they're playing good team ball, which is emblematic of most good Indiana teams. But no, it's as much as you'd want to say that Nebraska could pull this one off, I don't see it happening, not tonight.
No, I mean we've looked at Nebraska a lot of late. I mean, let's just look at their recent games. You look, Nebraska lost by 12 at Michigan State. They lost by 28 at Rutgers, and well, Rutgers burned us earlier this season against Purdue. If you lose by 28 to a Rutgers team that's probably middle of the pack in the Big Ten, I mean, the Knights are 10-6. It doesn't do a whole lot for you. They lost by 10 at home to Illinois last week, where we told you Kofi Cockburn was going to eat them for lunch. And then they lost by 27 at Purdue. They're 0-7 in the Big Ten. They already lost by 13 at Indiana. In their 3 home games in conference play, Jim, they've lost by 35 to Michigan. They lost by 8 to Ohio State in overtime, and they lost by 10 to Illinois. I just have no faith in this team in Nebraska that likes to run but can't play defense.
That's a problem. Hey, you know what? Let's go, as Horace Greeley once said, best young man. We've got some good, 2 of our favorite teams are playing out there this
Yeah, it's a Lawler Event Center. It's a Mountain West match where our good boys, Jeff Linder and the boys from Wyoming, are 2-point underdog against Steve Alford's Nevada team. Wyoming's 12-2, Nevada 8-6. Wyoming's won 3 in a row. They just beat Utah State over the weekend in their first game after a 3-week layoff since the Diamond Head Classic. The Wolfpack won 7-9. Nevada's 5-2 at home, but Wyoming's 4-1 on the road. And Wyoming is 69th in the nation in scoring offense. They are 77.1 points a game. They shoot the ball pretty well, 47.9% as a team. They average 9.1 threes a game, which is 54th in the country. Meanwhile, you're facing a Nevada team that is 315th in scoring defense. They're 349th by giving up 9.6 threes a game. They're 267th in three-point field goal percentage defense and 226th in field goal percentage defense overall. Wyoming is 6-2 in their last 8 on the road against teams with a winning home record. They're 24-8 in their last 32 at home on the road. They're 22-8-1 in their last 31 after a straight-up win. That was so bad I put it in there twice. Nevada's 0-5 in their last 5 overall against the spread. Also, they're 0-4 in their last 4 after an ATS loss, and they're 0-4 in their last 4 as a favorite. Take the bucket and the Cowboys as Jeff Linder gets Hunter Maldonado, Graham Ike, and the boys a road victory in the Silver State.
Right, in Reno. So, all right, it's fun to be out in Reno, but I think it's time that we head east and we go to what might be called the SAT game of the evening, as the Harvard Crimson takes on the green of Dartmouth, and it's a color game, red versus green, and the Crimson seem to be the better on this end, right?
Yeah, and as Mark Levy would say, and he went to Harvard, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Well,
Right.
if you're Dartmouth, you'd probably rather be, somewhere else. But the Crimson 9-5 for Coach Tommy Amaker. Dartmouth 4-10 this year. The Big Green is just 2-2 at home. Harvard's 2-3 on the road. Harvard has a big edge on the offensive end of the floor. They're 74th in scoring offense at 76.9 points a game. They don't turn it over a lot. 44th in turnover percentage. They're 136th in three-point shooting. Dartmouth is 268th in scoring offense. They only average just a hair over 68 points a game. They don't rebound well. They're 302nd in rebounding. They're 278th in field goal percentage. And they're 318th in shooting inside the arc at 44.7%. Just in case you thought Dartmouth's problems were just offensive, no, they're bad defensively, too. 215th in scoring defense. Opposing teams shoot 45.1%, which is 295th in the country. They're 270th in three-point defense. They're 273rd in rebounds allowed per game. Harvard 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 on Monday. They're 6-2-1 in their last 9 after scoring more than 90 points. They're coming in off a 91-82 win over Columbia in the SAT game of the week the other day. Dartmouth 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 on Monday. They're 1-4-1 in their last 6 at home. Also, Harvard Dartmouth 2-6-1 in their last 9 at home against teams with a losing road record. They are 1-4-1 in their last 6 with a road winning, or teams with a winning percentage above 600. Let's face it, when you get to think about Ivy League basketball these days, you think of a couple teams. You think of Harvard, you think of Penn, you think of Yale.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thinks about Dartmouth. And there's a good reason why nobody thinks about Dartmouth. It's because they're bad.
Yeah, it's
Harvard's one. I'm surprised the line's that small.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because you're not going to see tempo in this game either. So there's not going to run up and down the court. These are guys that kind of plod along, and so it makes it might be a very difficult game to watch.
To put numbers to that, Jim, Dartmouth is 327th in tempo at 64.9 possessions a game. Harvard, they're a little bit better. They're slightly above average. They're 122nd. 69.6, but still, Dartmouth is going to try to take the air out of the ball, kind of like Dean Smith used to do,
right.
The 4 corners where you could hold the ball for 11 minutes at a time.
Right.
But Dartmouth, they just don't have the weapons.
Yeah. Let's head to the ice.
Real quick before we do that, Jim, we have James who's asking about Murray State, asking if Murray State's overvalued. They whipped Belmont in a marquee matchup in the Ohio Valley Conference, 82-60 over the weekend. That game at Belmont. One thing to watch out for, I guarantee you, Belmont has February 24th circled on their calendars when they go to Murray State in a game that probably could decide the Ohio Valley Conference regular season title. Meanwhile, tonight, you're talking about Murray State, the Racers 14-2. They're facing an Eastern Illinois team that is 2-13 on the year. Their 2 wins came against non-Division I opponents. They've lost their last 2 games by 13 points each. They also lost to Ball State by 20. They lost to Missouri by 28. They lost to Evansville, who nobody's thinking about as a good team by any stretch of the imagination. They lost to Eastern Kentucky by 39. So, I mean, you're talking about losing to the Colonels. And, again, the Colonels, nobody thinks they're a great basketball team either. While 21.5 points seems like a big number, you have to consider that Eastern Illinois is second worst in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency. They are worst in 2-point shooting at 40.2%. They only shoot 60.1% at the line. They turn it over 1 out of every 4 possessions, which is third worst in the country. They don't get offensive rebounds. Murray State would probably have to go extremely cold from the floor in order to not cover the line of this game. You have to think the last few games from Murray State, they beat Southeast Missouri State by 25. They beat Tennessee State by 23. They beat Belmont by 22. I I don't think that they should have much of a problem putting away Eastern Illinois. And for those of you that are wondering, guess what? As a front game of a home and home, these teams will play at Murray State on Thursday night. So you can get two for one and watch Murray State beat the crap out of Eastern Illinois. So by the end of the week, the Racers should be 6-0 in the Ohio Valley and 16-2 overall. I would expect them to win probably by at least 25 points.
Okay, fair enough. All right, now can we go to the ice?
Yes, now we can. I just want to make sure we didn't miss that one.
No. We always want to take care of James. He's a good guy. We like him follows. James, continue to ask questions, man.
So we'll go to the ice. We're going to go to the UBS Arena out there in Elmont. The Islanders are favored over the Flyers. Philadelphia 13-7-7 this year. The Islanders 11-13-6. The Flyers are 7-9-4 as a road team this year. The Islanders 5-6-3 at home as they've finally started to figure things out. Islanders 4-1-1 in their last 6. They lost 2-0 to Washington Saturday night. Meanwhile, Philadelphia 0-5-2 in their last 7. Things not going well for the City of Brotherly Love Boys. The Broad Street Bullies kind of toothless at this point. The Flyers average just 2.05 goals per game on the road while giving up 3.1. The Islanders only give up 2.43 goals a game on home ice. It's supposed to be Carter Hart, 7-12-4 with a 294 goals against and a 911 save percentage in net for Philadelphia against Ilya Sorokin, 9-7-5, 243 and 925 save percentage and 3 shutouts. Interestingly enough, these two teams will meet tomorrow night in Philadelphia, where you'll probably see Semyon Varlamov and Martin Jones in net. But as Jim would say, that's a game for another show.
Right.
The Flyers 3-13 in their last 16 after scoring 2 or less in their last game. They're 1-6 in their last 7 against Metropolitan Division teams. The Islanders are 5-0 in their last 5 as a favorite. And just in case you were really worried about Philadelphia winning this game, let me throw a few more things out at you. The Flyers 1-10 in their last 11 when their opponent gives up 2 or less. They're 0-4 in their last 4 on the road. They're 0-4 in their last 4 as a road underdog. They're 2-7 in the last 9 meetings between these teams on the island. And they're 0-5 in the last 5 matchups between these two teams. Jim, when those numbers are not in your favor, they're really not in your favor.
They're not in your favor. I will say this. I did see some game against the Capitals on Saturday. Barry's got his team playing pretty decent defense. There were more than a few goals that could have easily been a 4 or 5 goal differential, but they did a pretty good job of choking things off and losing by, when you look at it and say, well, they still lost. Well, yeah, they did, but it could have been a whole lot worse than it was. And so yeah, I think that the Islanders are starting to get their defense right. If they could figure out how to score, they'd be dangerous.
That's the big issue. They got to find a way to light the lamp with some consistency. Yeah, 2-1, 3-1, maybe, because you get an empty netter.
Sure. So it's going to be something like that. Definitely the under on this one. But, yeah, the Islanders are playing, and they actually played well. That was at the UBS Center. And, they've been finding their sea legs there. Now, if Barry can just get them to score some points, they might, the second half of the season for them might be a much better result. Yeah. So we go from here to
Seattle.
The Kraken.
Yeah, this game coming from the Climate Pledge Arena or whatever it is they call it up there. I just remember when it was the Key Arena,
The building. Yeah.
The Supersonics played there, but
right.
The Blackhawks, they're actually an underdog because Seattle's going off at -115 as of earlier today. Chicago 15-18-5, Seattle 10-23-4. Seattle 6-12-2 at home. The Blackhawks 7-11-2 on the road. Seattle, they're 0-8-1 in their last 9. They haven't won since December 14th when they beat Anaheim. Chicago has somehow won 4 in a row. I don't understand either, so don't be surprised. The Kraken gives up 3.65 goals per game, which is second worst in the league. That goes to 3.75 goals per game on home ice. Marc-Andre Fleury, 13-11-2 with a 273 goals against, a 915 save percentage, and 3 shutouts will take between the pipes for the Blackhawks against Philippe Grubauer, who is 7-15-4 with a 337 880 save percentage for the Kraken. Let's not overlook the fact that this probably could have been a Chris Richard start, but he's in the COVID protocol, so I feel bad for you Kraken fans that have to let Grubauer probably stink it up again. Like we said, the Blackhawks 4-0 in their last 4 overall. They're 8-2 in their last 10 against teams with a losing record. The Kraken are 0-8 in their last 8 against Central Division opponents. They're 0-8 in their last 8 at home. That's right. They have a total of no points in their last 8 home games. And they're 0-6 in their last 6 when the opponent allowed 2 goals or less. Just to add insult to injury, the Kraken 3-15 in their last 18 after scoring 2 or less. They're 1-6 in their last 7 as a favorite. They're 0-4 in their last 4 as a home favorite. The Blackhawks already beat Seattle 4-2 earlier this season. I look for a similar type of score here. Chicago makes it 5 straight wins. They'll probably, shut down the entire city to have a parade, given how badly the Blackhawks have played the last couple of years. And especially after the whole fiasco with, Stan Bowman resigning and, that whole Adam Beach situation. But look for the Blackhawks make 5 straight wins as they take care of the Kraken on the road.
At least the beer will be
got some problems.
like I said, at least the beer will be cold for the Kraken fans. All right, so the Blackhawks over Seattle. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, and that's St. Louis and Nashville. That game coming to you from the Enterprise Center in St. Louis. The Predators 24-12-3. The Blues 22-11-5. These are 2 of the teams near the top of the Central Division. The Blues 15-4-2 at home this year. The Predators 13-6-3 on the road. Both teams coming off losses. Nashville lost 4-3 in overtime to Boston. St. Louis had their 13-game point streak at home. They were 12-0-1, upended as they were beaten in a wild game Saturday night by the Maple Leafs. They lost 6-5. One of those goals that you see the replay, you wonder how in the world it went in from the angle that it was shot at. It kind of reminded me when Joe Nieuwendyk beat Patrick Lalime from an angle like that back in Game 7 of the 2003 Eastern Conference first round of the playoffs, in a game that pretty much doomed Lalime in Ottawa for the rest of his life. It's just one of those fluke goals where you shoot from such a ridiculous angle you have no idea how it skipped through, but I think they'll shake that off. UC Saros 20-10-2 with a 235 goals against, a 926 save percentage, and 2 shutouts for the Preds. Jordan Binnington 11-8-3 with a 305 goals against and a 906 save percentage with 1 shutout in net for the Blues. Blues 5th in the league in goals per game at 3.45. Nashville is 14th at 3.08. Predators 7-19 in their last 26 when their opponent gives up at least 5 goals in their last game. The Blues 4-0 in their last 4 as a favorite. 4-0 in their last 4 against the Western Conference. 6-1 in their last 7 on Monday. In addition, the Blues 12-2, well 12-1-1 technically in their last 14 at home. They're 14-3 in their last 17 as a home favorite. They're 4-1 in their last 5 against Central Division opponents. And Nashville, they're already looking ahead because they have to play tomorrow night at home against Bruce Boudreau and the Canucks. It'll be the 3rd game in 4 nights for Nashville. Maybe they get caught looking ahead a little bit to get home, and the Blues get the victory on home ice.
Wow. So you look at Saros' numbers up there, and it's like that's money right there. That guy, 20 of the 20 some odd wins they got through him, with him in the pipes. So time to head to the association, right?
In just a second, I see we've got a couple more guys asking about college basketball here real quick, so we'll touch on those briefly. We've got Nathan asking about Merrimack taking on, let me double check who I've got here because I've got a bunch of tabs. Merrimack facing Mount St. Mary's. Merrimack, they're coming off a 62-46 loss to St. Francis of Pennsylvania Saturday. It's a 4-game win streak for the Warriors. Mount St. Mary's comes in with a unexciting record of 5-10. Dan Engelstad was going off a 73-66 road loss to Bryant. Looking at the way things have gone for Mount St. Mary's, they're 1-4, 1-6. They're 2-8 on the road. Their 2 road wins came over St. Francis of New York. Not like getting those confused. And of course, they beat another one of our favorite teams when it comes to fading in the sport. They beat Robert Morris in overtime back in November. I'm surprised, really, that Merrimack's not favored by more points in that game. I mean, it's only 3.5. I guess they're expecting this one to be a defensive slogfest. Neither team necessarily runs all that much. It's actually down to 3 points now. Merrimack is 17th in the nation in scoring defense, but they're 3rd worst in scoring offense. Meanwhile, Mount St. Mary's is 352nd in scoring offense. The total is only 119.5, so, I mean, if you get 60 points, you should win. I think Merrimack will pull that one out, especially playing at home. Mount St. Mary's, they're a little worse defensively than Merrimack. And, yeah, those are some ugly offensive numbers when you look at them.
They're having an on here at the Mount. Mount St. Mary's usually is a pretty respectable program, but not this time around.
Yeah, when Jimmy Phelan was there.
Yeah.
But, I just look at the numbers and, Mount St. Mary's, there's a good thing Mount St. Mary's plays at a slow pace, because if they actually played at any kind of tempo, their numbers would be horrible, because you look at their defensive metrics, and they are 326th in field goal percentage allowed. They're 300th in three-point defense allowed. And opponents shoot 77.7% of the line against them. So if they played at, say, an average tempo, their defensive scoring defense would be horrible. I would take Merrimack minus the 3. As for Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, I mean, Jim, you know Dusty May's team probably better than I do. I mean, I know it's not South Florida, but
yeah, no, look, Charlotte has a good team this year, a decent team, I should say. Florida Atlantic, to be honest, I'd stay away from it. But if I had to pick, I'd pick Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte's won 4 straight. They just came off a home sweep of UTEP and UTSA. Florida Atlantic, they lost at Middle Tennessee. They lost to UAB. They've also lost to High Point and VCU. They've lost 4 of their last 6. Their only win of substance in that 6-game stretch came over Marshall on the road. And their other one was over, I think this was probably Ray's alma mater, Florida Tech. Not a Division I program.
No, it's not.
Florida Atlantic really hasn't beaten anybody. 3 of their 8 wins are against non-Division I teams. Their best win.
Where are they playing this game?
They're playing this one down in Boca Raton.
Okay. I still would take Charlotte.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that Charlotte, is probably the better team. I'm not thrilled about either side, just because, Charlotte has to prove that they can win on the road. But, I mean, they're getting 4 points. I can see if Florida Atlantic wins, they'd probably win by 2 or 3. I can't see them winning by any more than that, just because of their issues. We just talked about Mount St. Mary's with issues defensively. Florida Atlantic is 274th in field goal percentage defense. They're 346th in three-point defense. Those numbers just don't bode well when it comes to playing late in the season, especially in conference play.
That might be one that might be one to stay away from tonight. Maybe that's the safest. Sometimes the best bet you make is the one you don't make. And I don't know, really expert there, Chris. But as I say, sometimes you look at it and you go, not tonight.
Yeah, there's those games where you need to stay away from as opposed to chasing them. Just because, like Pat Toomey said in the book, and then they made it a movie. And we could just extrapolate on any given Sunday. Mm-hmm. Sure. Anything can happen, and it's the same thing here. Only just change it to Monday.
Correct.
Or whatever day you feel like changing it to.
Fair enough. Okay, we're going to go to the association, and when there's more questions, we'll answer. The Suns, they're our favorite teams.
Yep, they're going down to San Antonio to play the Spurs. Phoenix 33-9, the Spurs 16-27. San Antonio is 8-12 at the AT&T Center, which has got to be disturbing for Greg Popovich. Phoenix 16-4 on the road. They're third in scoring offense at 112.3 points a game. They are fifth in scoring defense. Meanwhile, San Antonio, they're ninth in scoring offense, so they can score some points. The problem is they don't stop anybody. They're 23rd in scoring defense at 111 points a game. They're 21st in field goal percentage defense, and they're 21st in three-point defense. I get the Suns are playing the second game of a back-to-back, but they waxed Detroit yesterday 135-108. The game was probably over by the time you went to go get a snack. Phoenix 4-0 in their last four against teams with winning percentage below 400. 4-0 against the spread in their last four against teams with a losing record. 4-1 in their last five after a straight-up win. San Antonio 1-4 in their last five against teams with a winning record. They're 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 overall. They're 3-7 in their last 10 after an ATS win. And they're 1-4 in the last five games against teams with a winning straight-up record. I think this line is only as low as it is because of the fact that that Phoenix played yesterday, right? But there was a 1 o'clock tip, and they were still in the Central Time Zone, right? So I mean, you have to think that it's going to work in their favor. As to the question about DeAndre Ayton, the latest injury report, let me double check it because Phoenix had to submit a new one by now. I tend to keep them on my screen because God knows something will change when I go to write something up. For Phoenix, I don't see Ayton listed as questionable. They might have cleared him. I'll double check real quick here. One other spot.
While you're looking, all you really need to know about this game is that first line. The Spurs 33-9. I'm sorry, the Suns 33-9. The Spurs 16-27.
Yeah, the injury report that I'm looking at has Cameron Johnson is questionable with an ankle injury. Abdel Nader is questionable with conditioning coming back off the COVID list. And then Frank Kaminsky and Dario Saric are both out, but they've been out forever.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, San Antonio, Jakob Poeltl is questionable with a back issue. Zach Collins still hasn't played all season. Now they're targeting late January. Tyus Jones has been in the COVID protocols. I don't see Ayton popping up in that case.
So, yeah. All right.
Now, granted, something could change, but as of the last injury report that came out, Ayton's not on it.
Well, let's move on.
We'll move to Dallas and Oklahoma City. I know everybody loves the Thunder. Dallas 24-19 on the year. Oklahoma City 14-28. Thunder 6-14 on the road. Dallas 12-8 at home. The Thunder, we always pick out Orlando offensively, but Oklahoma City's last in the league in scoring offense at 128 points a game. They're 29th in field goal percentage at 41.8, and they're last in three-point shooting. Meanwhile, they have to contend with a Dallas team that's third in scoring defense at 102.7 points per game, 16th in field goal percentage defense, 11th in three-point defense. And in case everybody's wondering, Kristaps Porzingis, Boban Marjanovic, Luka Doncic, Tim Hardaway, all those guys are not on the injury report. The only guy that Mark Cuban's guys list is Reggie Bullock. He's questionable with a sore knee. Meanwhile, the Thunder, Isaiah Roby and Theo Maledon are down in the G League on assignment. Kendrick Williams still in the health and safety protocols. So nothing to worry about there from an injury perspective for Dallas. The Mavericks 6-0 in their last six when their opponent allows at least 100 points. 4-0 in their last four as a home favorite. They're 4-0 in their last four on one-day arrest. They're 4-0 in their last four at home. And that bottom line just damns Oklahoma City. They're 0-7 against the spread in the last 7 meetings in Dallas. They're 4-10 against the spread in the last 14 meetings overall. Meanwhile, Dallas 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 overall and 5-1 in their last 6 after a straight-up win. I mean, we just saw the Mavericks completely decimate Memphis and end their 10-game winning streak late last week. You have to think they can come home and take care of business against an Oklahoma City team that is not at the bottom of the Northwest Division.
For good reason.
Yeah, and they just can't score.
There you go. All right, let's move on.
All right, we're going to move to down to in the Peach State there. The Bucks favored by 6 over the Hawks. Bucks 27-18. The Hawks 17-25. Seems like all that good stuff they had last year after Nate McMillan took over when Lloyd Pierce was fired went down the drain. The Hawks are 8-11 at home. The Bucks are 13-10 on the road. Bucks are 7th in scoring offense at 111.6. They're 16th in field goal percentage. They're 7th in three-point shooting. Blow for the Hawks are expected to minus 2 starters as Clint Capella is out with an ankle injury. Bogdan Bogdanovic out with a sore knee. As Charles Barkley would say, he'd take the bigger Bogdanovic if you're trying to talk about Bogdan and Bojan. Meanwhile, for the Bucks, Brook Lopez, of course, he's out after back surgery. He's played just one game all year. Jrue Holiday expected to miss the game again with a sore ankle. Langston Galloway's in the health and safety protocols for the Bucks. But, I mean, let's face it, the Hawks are horrible on the defensive end of the floor. They're 25th in scoring defense, giving up 112 points a game. They're 28th in field goal percentage defense. They're 26th in three-point defense. And look at that next line, guys. 0-11 against the spread in their last 11 at home. Not only are they sucking overall, they can't cover a line at home. 0-11. That's Orlando-type numbers. Orlando-type numbers. That's just, you can't get any worse than that. They're also 0-5 in their last 5 overall, 0-4 in their last 4 after an ATS loss. If you want more bad numbers about the Hawks, they're 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 at home against teams with a winning road record. They're 0-5 in their last 5 after giving up at least 100 points. They're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 against teams with a winning record. I don't know what else I can tell you about Orlando. It's Orlando North.
Right.
I can tell you about North Orlando to point out how bad they are right now.
Yeah.
That's what we've already done.
Oof. All right. I'll tell you what. After a game like that, we got to go through the first ever Monday night playoff football game.
Right.
And that's going to be between the Cardinals of Arizona and the Rams of Los Angeles. And you got the Cardinals taking some points against the Rams.
Right, and I mean, let's start off with what happened in Week 18. Both teams had a chance to clinch the division title, but the Rams blew a 17-0 lead, lost to San Francisco in overtime. They got the 49ers in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Dallas is thrilled about that. Meanwhile, the Cardinals blew the shot at the division title because they lost 38-30 to the Seahawks.
At home.
At home, yeah. Which, as Jim would tell you, that's a damning indictment for the Cardinals. They were just 3-5 at home this season, but they were 8-1 on the road. Right. Interesting stuff about the Rams. They won't have Taylor Rapp or Jordan Fuller, both their starting safeties. Fuller's on IR. Rapp couldn't clear the concussion protocols. So what did the Rams do? They went and got Eric Whittle out of retirement. What? Was Jack Youngblood too busy?
Eric Whittle, huh?
Yeah, they signed him out of retirement the other day.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean,
I guess Nick Reed was busy.
I guess Fred Dreyer couldn't. He was too busy probably filming some TV show or something.
Wow.
So both those teams struggled down the stretch. The Cardinals were 4-6 in their last 10 games after a 7-0 start. These teams split their 2 meetings this year. They each won on the road. Now the Rams won the most recent meeting, 30-23 on December 13th. But don't forget, the Cardinals went into SoFi Stadium back on October 3rd and took a 37-20 beatdown of the Rams. Like we said, the Cardinals 8-1 as the visiting team this year. You figure it out because nobody else can. The Rams 5-3 at SoFi Stadium. Cardinals 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 after allowing more than 150 yards on the ground. They're 18-6-3 in their last 27 as a road underdog. They're 18-6-2 in their last 26 on the road. The Rams 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 against teams with a winning record. They're 1-5 in their last 6 after an ATS loss. And I guess the scariest thing, Jim, is the Rams 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 playoff games at home. I can understand being that way on the road, but I mean, you're talking about in your own building. You're not winning and covering the line. Also, one other random stat for you: the road team has gone 5-1-1 against the spread in the last 7 meetings between these teams.
Ugh, that's I don't know. I mean, it's the Cardinals. You got to think the Cardinals have got that got a good chance of winning tonight because they've just been money on the road. And the Rams, you know, when you lose at home, like they've lost at home, this looks like one of those games where neither team wants to play at home. I think they're looking for a neutral site.
Yeah, the latest injury report shows Chase Edmonds is probable for the Cardinals. James Conner questionable. He's still going to be dealing with that heel injury. Even if he's limited, I mean, as they said during the broadcast of that Seattle game, James Conner has been in the end zone a lot. I thought that was really enlightening commentary.
Right. When you're running 2 and 3 yards, it's not a long distance to get there.
Right. J.J. Watt, I don't know if he's going to be activated tonight or not.
I didn't say about him being activated. But
no?
It might be a last-minute thing.
Yeah, Isaiah Simmons questionable with a personal issue. I imagine he'll be back. I can't imagine that he would want to miss a playoff game. For the Rams, Van Jefferson dealing with a shoulder injury. Other than that, they're relatively healthy. Stanford dealing with that toe issue, but I don't think that's going to stop him. Leonard Floyd's not going to be stopped with the back. I mean, let's face it, it's win or go home time. So
right.
if you can drag yourself out on the field, and I'm sure and you can attest to this, Jim, because you remember the Rams with Jack Youngblood playing with that broken leg.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think any of these guys would be able to look at themselves in the mirror if they were dealing with a hangnail and couldn't play.
No, it's the funny thing is you've got two teams here who have, for whatever reason, not been able to seal the deal, and so one of them is going to advance to the playoffs tonight. Something that neither of them have been able to do, in recent memory. So it's going to be.
To steal the line from Charlie Jones, just tweaking the words, the winner goes to Tampa Bay. The loser goes home.
In this case, the loser would be home. So we'll see. All right, tell you what, before we go to the 2 for the money and the rest of our fun stuff, let's go and talk about our buddies at Caesars one more time. And that's Caesars Sportsbook. And you know what? Here's what they've got for us, okay? Now, you make your first deposit and your first bet using Caesars Sportsbook or their app. They're going to match your first wager up to $1,000. That's right. But you must use the promo code VIDEOWINNERS to get that deal because they're fans of us here at Winners and Whiners. So make your first deposit and bet using Caesars Sportsbook app or their online portal. And they're going to match that first wager all the way up to $1,000. Now, for those of you in New York, they have what they've got, calling the Empire State Royal Welcome. You get $300 in bonus cash on sign-up. Plus, they're going to match your first deposit all the way up to $3,000 if you use the promo code WINNERSNEW. That's WINNERSNEW. So, whether you're in New York or not in New York, Caesars, because you're fans of ours at Winners and Whiners, are going to take care of you. So check our show box below. All the information is down there. And as we always like to tell you, first of all, you must be 21 years of age to participate, and also always gamble responsibly. Okay? All right. So we're getting ready now. We're going to go from our buddies at Caesar Sportsbook. We're going to move up to 2 for the money, and let's see what we got our parlays for tonight.
Yeah, like we said at the beginning of the show, Jim, Indiana over Nebraska. I know that Indiana hasn't won a road game this season, but, Nebraska doesn't scare anybody. 6-12 overall, 6-6 at home. They haven't really beaten anybody of substance. Meanwhile, they've been drubbed on their home floor, and they're coming off that 27-point loss to Purdue the other night. You have to think the Hoosiers will take that one comfortably as they beat up Nebraska inside, just like everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
The Islanders over the Flyers. We talked about the Islanders have gone 4-1-1 in their last 6. The Flyers are 0-5-2 in their last 7. These two teams will play again tomorrow night in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center. I expect the result will probably be the same. The line will be different. You have to think that Philadelphia might not be as badly bad of an underdog at home, but I still think that the Islanders will win tonight and probably tomorrow night as well. The Blackhawks we talked about, they won 4 in a row. The Kraken are 0-8-1 in their last 9. I know they're an expansion team. Everybody wants to give them a pass. But, we've seen expansion teams do well. Just look at Vegas.
Right.
So, look for the Blackhawks to get 5 straight. And the Suns, minus 4.5 over the Spurs. I know the Spurs are playing the second game of back-to-back, but they're playing the San Antonio team that has a 400 winning percentage at home. Meanwhile, the Suns have an 800 winning percentage on the road, and they didn't really have to exert much effort to beat Detroit yesterday, winning by 27 in a game that probably wasn't that close even. So look for the Suns to prevail in San Antonio.
Well, for the money.
Yeah, we got I'm actually, I didn't want to lay it with a side on here. I'm going to go with over 50 points, which is what the line is. The total is, if you look, the 2 meetings this season, we saw them combine for 57 and 53 points. If you go and look at their recent matchups, 4 of the last 5 have gone over the number. The only one that didn't was an 18-7 game in a meaningless contest last year at the end of the regular season. But you look at some of the other matchups, we've seen 55, 66, 57, and 53 in the other 4 meetings. You have to think neither defense has been overwhelming down the stretch. The Rams get by on pressure, but they don't necessarily have a ton of success when it deals with a mobile quarterback. Both of these offenses were top 10 in the league in total yards. The Rams were 8th in scoring offense. The Cardinals were 11th. You have to think that this one will end up over that mark. In addition, we said Harvard over Dartmouth in the color game, or if you want to call it the SAT game of the week, whatever works. The Blues over Nashville. I just think Nashville is going to be looking ahead to playing Vancouver tomorrow night. They'll get caught a bit off guard. St. Louis plays very well at home. And Wyoming, -2 on the road, or that actually should be +2. That was a typo on my part. +2 on the road over Nevada. Jeff Linder, he's done a great job over there, taking over after that last season. And, Nevada, they're horrible on the defensive end of the floor. And Steve Alford, the last thing you want to do if you're Steve Alford's team is try to get in a track meet with a team like Wyoming that'll bury you with 80-plus points in a heartbeat. Take the bucket. Take the Cowboys. Enjoy the fun.
There you go. All right, here we are at the last part of our show where we give you a whole bunch of opportunities and options. And Chris, why don't you hit it with our wonderful close wheel here?
Right, like Jim said, you can take 2, take 4. If you want to mix one of these in with the stuff we put up before, you can do that too. Basically, it just boils down to whatever you want to go with. I'm going to start with, in the Summit League, Kansas City -8 over Denver. Those of you who have been with us for a while, you know that we've talked about Denver losing to Ottawa University of Arizona at home earlier this season. Everybody's still surprised to know that there is an Ottawa University or that there's 2 campuses, the other one being in Kansas. This next one, it's a Pac-12 matchup. Arizona State -2 over Utah. Utah's 0-5 on the road. Arizona State isn't great either, but they're at home at least, and they've gained a little bit of momentum of late. I think, I'm wondering if I'm Craig Smith, am I regretting that I left Utah State to go to Utah, knowing that now I'm 1-6 in the Pac-12. I've lost 5 in a row. 4 of those were by double digits. 2 of them were at home. And now I have to go to Tempe and face Bobby Hurley's team, who, don't get me wrong, nobody's impressed with either.
That would be a nice trip other than that.
Yeah, it's a nice campus, and,
beautiful campus in Arizona State. So trip to Tempe, not that bad.
But, if I'm Bobby Hurley, I'm wondering, how long of a leash are they going to give me when I'm 5-9 and 1-3? I just think they're playing at home, given Utah's road struggles, that the Sun Devils should prevail in that one. Drake -2 on the road over Southern Illinois. The Bulldogs, a very good team. The Salukis, I'm just not sold on. They're inconsistent. On the ice, that's right. It's a first, folks. We're going to take the Arizona Coyotes to win a game. That's not a typo. They're favored at home against, never mind. They're playing another doormat. That's right. They're facing the Canadians. Nobody likes them. Montreal is a train wreck mixed with a dumpster fire, sprinkled in with Chernobyl. And then, throw in some blood diamonds, and that's basically the Canadian situation. They have no players. They have no goaltending. Their coach is terrible. They're on the road. You got a San Francisco, Los Angeles situation here coming up with the Sharks and Kings. Yeah, and I like the Kings. I believe that game's at the SAP Center in San Jose. It is. I like the Kings. They played some good hockey of late. They pushed themselves into a playoff spot. Meanwhile, San Jose, they're just too inconsistent. They're only 10-8-2 on home ice. James Reimer, I think, is supposed to get the start against Jonathan Quick, but I just like the way the Kings have played. They play good hockey. They're fourth in goals against. San Jose is 19th in that category. So, in a game where neither team is big offensively, you have to give the edge to the better goaltending team, and that's the Kings. The Penguins, Vegas, that'll be another entertaining matchup. That one coming at the T-Mobile Arena. I like Pittsburgh. Tristan Jerry has played well in there. Vegas, they've been up and down of late. They struggled. They struggle sometimes. I think they're still trying to figure out their blue line. They had some issues with COVID. I like the Penguins to prevail. This is also not a typo. Portland -2 on the road over the Lakeland Magic.
Right.
Should have C.J. McCollum back tonight. They won't have Damian Lillard. Orlando, what can you say about a team that is – are you ready for this, folks? The Magic are 8-36 on the season, but 6 of their wins have come on the road. Orlando is 2-15 at home. Now, Portland isn't any better on the road. The Trailblazers are 3-14. But I just like the Trailblazers a little bit better than I like the Magic in this one. I'll give them 2 points, and I'll take Portland to get the win. Like we said, the Bucks over the Hawks. We talked about that already. Atlanta 0-11 against the spread in their last 11 at home. That's just a putrid number to look at. Toronto +3 over Miami. Kyle Lowry not expected to play for the Heat against the former team. Bam Adebayo is questionable, so there is that. And then finally, the Cardinals +3.5 over the Rams. Nathan is saying he likes the Grizz over Chicago. Yeah, Zach LaVine, I believe, is out. They were saying that he was going to be questionable, but I think that they ended up ruling him out as he's trying to come back from that knee injury. Also out, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Tyler Cook, Devin Dotson, Devontae Green, Derek Jones, and Patrick Williams. Dylan Brooks is obviously out to late February with that ankle sprain. East Pons and Killian Tilly, both in the protocols for the Grizzlies. But yeah, with Chicago missing so much firepower, you're putting a lot of pressure on DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. Not to mention Kobe White's going to have to step up. I think that, if LaVine was playing, it'd be a different situation. It would be a closer game, but I think that Memphis playing at home should pull that one out. The Bulls have to be kicking themselves after letting that game Saturday night against Boston slip away by giving up the last 8 points after they led by 6 with under 2 minutes to go.
There you go. And the final thing on there, you've got, of course, the Cardinals and the Rams.
Yeah, the Cardinals are over the Rams.
Yeah. So, all right. So, do we have any more questions before we leave today?
Yes, I think everybody's asking where they can send us money because they like us so much.
Well, that's very kind. Chris will give you his PayPal account, and you'll just send it to him.
And James, you're doing your job, Jim. You're telling people to hit the like button.
Hit that like button. Smash it. Go ahead, James. Hit it a couple times. We'll take it all we can. Guys, we really appreciate you dropping by. It's been a lot of fun. It's always fun to have you. here. It's always fun to debate with you when you think we're wrong, which is there's nothing wrong with that.
Speaking of, the biggest guy who complains isn't here today because we had a good day Friday. Amazing how that works.
Well, that's the way it works. We'll forgive Ray this time. Just kidding.
Like Jerry the King Lawler says, I don't come to Burger King and tell you how to make a Whopper.
That's true, you don't. All right. Well, everybody, enjoy your games now, whether you're watching college basketball, the association, which has been on all day and will continue into the night, and, of course, the very rare, one of its kind, first of its kind, I should say, playoff Monday night football game in the next 5 years, we'll probably have playoff games on every night, but playoff game Monday night, Cardinals, and they're headed to SoFi to play the Rams in Los Angeles. So,
hey, don't forget at 3 o'clock, our good buddies Steve and Rachel will be back to tell you about all the stuff that happened. And Steve will probably tell you how great the Chiefs are for beating a team that squeaked into the playoffs because Indianapolis couldn't beat Jacksonville.
There you go. Yeah, they're coming up at 3 o'clock right here on Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. Back to the window with Scott and Scott. And until tomorrow, when we come back and we'll do some post-mortem on what happened last night, well, tonight, I guess it would be, with Cardinals and the Rams, as well as other things that we may have gotten right or wrong. And then we'll start all new, because that's the way it works here, okay? All right, folks, for my buddy, Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying, so long, we will see you tomorrow, 1:30.